A debate is happening tomorrow night in Pennsylvania. We spoke to CBS News Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, about new polls coming out before the debate. Anthony, what is keeping this race so close, especially here in Michigan?
Hey there, Rochelle. Let me show you just how close that is to start off. It's a 1-point difference between Harris and Trump. That is effectively tied. That is within the margin of error. And then to answer your question about why it's so close, there's really these cross pressures here. Let me start with the economy because it's been so important, and of course inflation as a part of that. Donald Trump wins in Michigan and these other battleground states. The majority of voters who say that inflation is a major factor. He does better among voters who say that their incomes aren't keeping up with inflation. So that's a little bit retrospective. Maybe the non-incumbent benefits from those economic assessments, but there's this other factor that's working a little bit more for Harris, which is to say that when you ask whose policies do they think will help the middle class specifically, Harris has a little bit of an edge there in Michigan, 57 versus 50 who say that separately of Donald Trump. So the question I think going into the debate too is, can Harris move the needle a little bit on those economic measures where she's got that deficit to Donald Trump, Rochelle?
I heard you just got some brand new stats in. I want to ask you about those. We obviously have some big automakers here in Detroit and Metro Detroit. Where are people's enthusiasm right now in terms of wanting a candidate who maybe promotes EVs, dials back on EVs? What did you just get in on that?
Well, we asked that, and you do have a slight majority who would oppose the idea of encouraging more electric and hybrid vehicles. But what's interesting and perhaps not surprising is that within this, you get it cutting to vote. So that Democrats who often have the climate and climate change higher on their list of major factors are going to be more likely to say yes, encourage that. Republicans less so, but obviously that's going to be a big issue there in Michigan, so we'll want to keep an eye on it, Rochelle.
What do you see right now being each candidate's strengths? You talked about Trump getting a lot of support because of his emphasis on economy and inflation, but where do they both stand right now?
Well, I want to show you one slide that shows a lot of what the dynamic here is, too, about the issue of housing, because this stood out to me. Many people in the state of Michigan, as well as all these battleground states, say that they feel that housing has become unaffordable. So we asked whose policies might help offset that a little bit. And while neither gets a large majority or a majority at all, Harris gets a little bit of an advantage there in Michigan over Trump's policy. So again, back to that idea of the economy and various factors of it, you might see Harris with a little bit of an edge. She might want to press there. But then there's this other point, too, and that is enthusiasm. That is who is going to turn out, which is always important in a race that's this tight. You see, Democrats have now matched Republicans in saying that they will definitely vote. And that is the story after Joe Biden stepped aside and Harris stepped in. You see Democrats getting more enthusiastic. And now that they're even with Republicans, that's a big factor for why the race is so close, Rochelle.
Yeah, we've certainly seen that enthusiasm among Democrats grow. Anthony Salvanto, thank you for your time. With us being a battleground state, do we stress you out, make your job stressful, or is it fun to have a state keeping you on your toes a little bit with polling?
This is the exciting part. I look forward to talking to you all again. We will keep polling Michigan.
Wonderful. We'll keep needing your expertise and insight here. Thanks for joining us.